Good evening. I call this regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission to order. It's Thursday, March 4th, 2021, at 6 p.m. This meeting is being conducted at the Carrabelle City Hall Chambers, and we will open with a prayer by Commissioner Allen, and then we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand.
Our God in heaven, we're so grateful tonight that we have this beautiful city and that we live in this wonderful country and the freedom that we have. We ask you to be with those people in our audience tonight as well as us up here speaking, that we'll do what's in harmony with your will and what's good for best for all concerned. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening. Please note that masks are required at all times except for when speaking into the microphone so that we can hear you. And when you do speak in the microphone, speak into it so they can hear you on Facebook. Please be considerate and adhere to the social distancing requirements. For those watching this meeting on Facebook, on the City of Carrabelle Facebook page, you can write your comments there, and staff will advise us. Be sure to let us know if you can't hear. Now, during the entirety of this meeting, I will not tolerate at any time smart remarks, loud outbursts from your chair, loud comments from your chair, snickering, talking amongst yourselves where it's disrupting the meeting. And I have just talked with the officer on duty, and anyone wishing to speak will raise their hand to alert me, the mayor, the chairperson, and that speaker will be recognized by me. I'll ask the commissioners to help me. Let me know if they see someone raising their hand that I don't notice. The speaker will introduce his or herself and proceed to the podium to speak. We're not going to have questions from the audience. Anyone deviating from these guidelines will be removed from this room immediately by the officer on duty. And this is your warning now, okay? And so from there, we're going to move into a very happy swearing in and oath of office ceremony. And I know she's excited. And we're going to have comments by our faithful Miss Commissioner Mel Kelly, and she's our outgoing appointed commissioner who has stepped up kindly to serve for us.
I don't mind being a has-been at all on behalf of the city. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve the city once again. I am grateful to have been nominated and selected, and I hope you believe that I made a good difference on behalf of our city once again. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And I just want to say to Commissioner Kelly and former Mayor Mel Kelly that I commend you on your energetic leadership for your city of Carrabelle. You're recognized for your loyal and dedicated leadership all these years. It continues since you've been mayor. And you've got countless achievements under your belt there, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much for stepping up to the plate.
Thank you, yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Don't
okay.
get wrapped up in the wires there.
Well, do you think you'll be able to get it? Will you be able?
Streaming is just people who, I don't know about them making comments.
Okay.
how they're gonna be able to make
Do you
comments.
think eventually it will?
I don't have any control over that
Oh.
because it's not streaming, it's going through YouTube.
To Facebook?
That's-
Okay.
That's how that
Okay, folks, unfortunately, I've just been notified that we're having some technical problems. Our live stream is streaming through YouTube to Facebook Live. And when that happens, the folks are not able to comment on Facebook. We'll think a few minutes here. We're going to continue with the swearing in and oath of office, and then we're going to move on to the organizational meeting for the board, our housekeeping work, and hopefully we'll have something worked out by the end of that, because there's really no comments needed for the next two items anyway. So Miss Sabrina, would you move forward, and we'll have our city commissioner, Keisha Messer, will administer your oath of office. What did I say? Well, you're the only one that got it.
That's good.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the government of the United States
and the government of the United
and
States
of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
and that I am duly qualified
and that I am duly qualified
to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of city commissioner,
perform the duties of city commissioner,
of which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay, Miss Sabrina, if I would like for Miss Sabrina to take her seat right over here, and then Commissioner Millender will take his normal seat, and we're almost back to where we were before COVID. So, all right. And Miss Sabrina, did you have anything, Commissioner Brown, did you have anything that you would like to say to the audience and your
Yes.
support? Okay.
I'll keep it short.
Mash that little button up.
Is it on?
Push it towards you.
There we go.
And then just take your mask off.
Okay. Whew. I'm a little nervous, so excuse me. Above all, I would like to thank the citizens of Carrabelle who went out to cast their votes so that they can have a voice in the decision-making process. It is an honor and equally a humbling experience to be elected city commissioner. Thank you to Mr. Keith Walden for your service to our community, and also Ms. Walden both for their words of wisdom and support. Thank you, fellow commissioners and Ms. Mayor, for putting your hearts into representing our city. I know we will not always agree, but one thing we all have in common is that we all strive selflessly to do what's best for Carrabelle. Sorry, I'm really excited. And last but certainly not least, I may not have had the confidence to run for this seat without the unconditional support of my family, friends, and those in the community I've become friends over the last few months. And for that, I am forever grateful. I will always be as transparent as possible and base my decisions on what will benefit Carrabelle as a whole. My vision for Carrabelle is a sense of community and family that our ancestors set in place, taking pride in our neighborhoods, and prosperity that each of us hope to pass on to the next generation. Thank you again for this opportunity and for your support.
Welcome aboard, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you.
Okay, and for staff, if I'm going to name out the things that she's going to need to do, like by tomorrow. She needs to get scheduled for the Institute of Elected Municipal Officials. She needs to be scheduled for the Incident Command and Incident Management Systems training, scheduled required ethics training if she hasn't taken that for the CRA already. I'd like for her to have a tour of the two water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, streets and roads laydown yard, police department, and airport. And certainly meet with Miranda, our finance and HR administrator, for your orientation and to complete paperwork. And letterhead needs to have Commissioner Brown's name and our website. And I did notice the other day our Muni code has got the commission name on there from maybe when you first put it on there, 2013, or I said, wow. But that was something that's really overlooked. Next time you send in, yeah, next time you send in a package, just if you can remember, I'll try to remember. Okay, so we're going to move on to our organizational meeting, and we've got our seating arrangement, and I will designate the commissioners with check signing authority. But I think that maybe we need to go down to another item first and see about the commissioners, whether or not we want to move. I'm gonna move forward to number 3 right now. I want to ask the commissioners, do you want to continue with assignments for individual departments to be sort of representative of the individual departments? I had planned to do this if I was reelected last November, but all of that changed, and we know what passed, how it passed by, and what happened. And so we're here today with our new commissioner. Mr. Hartman says it's fine for us to do this type of housekeeping today. But last summer I started looking in the charter to try to find the section in the charter, the Code of Ordinances, that said that the commissioners had to have an assignment. I couldn't find it. Courtney and Keisha can't find it. Mr. Hartman can't find it. I said, Mr. Hartman, what do we do? And he said, well, bring it up to the commissioners and ask, do they want to continue with that tradition? I spoke with Mr. Frank about it, Commissioner Mathis, and he said, yes, that they used to run years ago on seats for departments, and he felt like that it was a tradition that we had carried forward. And do we want to continue that tradition, or do we just want to be commissioners? I know no matter whether we have assignments, department assignments, we're all welcome to go speak with any department supervisor and voice your complaints. But we know when we have a city manager, city administrator, those terms are used synonymous, that we can't give orders or directions individually to the supervisors or to the individual employees, that we must carry our concerns to the administrator and then work out the issues through that. So what do y'all think?
I'd be in favor of continuing.
You're in favor of continuing?
Independent.
Okay. And
I'm in favor.
okay.
I am.
All right.
Continuing is fine with me, but I see it from my experience. Of course, there's the most experience sitting there. I find it from my experience, we all work in all of the departments, just as you described. But I don't have an issue either way, because we all work together. And
Okay.
we all work and get the same phone calls.
Yes, we do. And yes, we're all, and I just didn't know what to do. I don't mind continuing either. But we are all welcome to go and speak with any supervisor at any time. And they welcome you to come and talk to them, because then they know you're interested in them and interested in the work they do, and they can then speak to you if they've got an issue. So don't feel shy. All right, then. What we'll do then, I'll continue with the water and sewer, and Commissioner Mathis with streets and roads, and Commissioner Allen, I will reassign to the fire department and cemeteries, and Commissioner Millender to the police department, and Commissioner Brown on finance. And then I'll go back to designate the check signers, which would be myself as the mayor, and then the finance person representing the finance department signs checks, and then Commissioner Millender is our alternate check signer, and will remain like that. All right, let's see. Do we have another one here? Yes, we do. So, number 4, the 5 commissioners will select one of their own number, exclusive of the mayor commissioner, who shall act as mayor pro tem, which is vice mayor. So at the first regular meeting, which should have been in November, but things came to pass, as I mentioned before. So this is basically our first regular meeting. The last time that we elected a vice mayor was back in 2017. And, it doesn't hurt to rotate a little bit. So I would like to ask this board if they would, is there anyone that, are,
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Milner. as
okay,
Mayor Pro Tem.
all right, we have a nomination for Commissioner Millender for Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioner Allen seconds that. Would you, now we're in discussion.
I was just gonna say, I wasn't gonna second that.
No, you weren't, but if Commissioner Allen didn't, I was. So, will you accept that nomination, sir?
Gladly, and thank y'all.
Okay, very good then. We have a motion and a second, and he accepts the nomination. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? And that motion carries. All right, we have a new vice mayor, Commissioner Millender. Okay, then. We're going to move in then to our regular meeting for the consent agenda. And Royce, how does it look? We're not getting any straight on to
I can't
Facebook?
see it on here,
Okay.
but you got people watching though.
Okay, good. Our consent agenda for the February 4th, 2021 commission meeting minutes and the attorney's invoices for January 2021.
Motion to approve.
All right. I heard,
Either one.
okay, Commissioner Allen, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, that's Commissioner Millender. And is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right, folks, this is a time for public comment. And yes, Ms. Tamara? Public comment? Okay. So public comment now is for any item that is not on the agenda. Any item that's not on the agenda. And I want you, so you can come forward and speak, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And Keisha, we have some people standing. I don't know if we've got extra chairs or some way they can have a way to sit.
My name is Tamara Allen, and I'm the director of the Carrabelle History Museum and the Carrabelle Historic Society. And in that role, I've been participating with the Preserve Historic Carrabelle efforts that have been going on in the city for the last year and a half. And part of those things you're aware of have to do with the creation of a historical district in downtown Carrabelle. But I'm here tonight particularly, and hopefully Keisha handed out this photograph. We have installed yesterday, right in front of Rio Carrabelle on the corner, the very first in a series of 9 historical markers that will become the historical walking trail for downtown Carrabelle and Marine Street. And as many of you know, these markers are like a roadmap for certain kinds of visitors that do heritage vacations. And so we're very proud of our first one. And if you haven't had a chance to see it, please stop by there in front of Rio Carrabelle and look at it. Very proud of the efforts of Michael Pace and Bo May and a whole lot of other people who actually dug the hole, put in the post, and hung up the. But it's all dedicated to Bo's father, Jack May. So I appreciate having the opportunity to share that with you all today. We think it's a particular piece of good news for us, for the city.
Okay, very good. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak under public comment for an item that is not on the agenda this evening? An item that's not on the agenda. Please come forward.
My name is Martha Murray. I'm a property owner here in Carrabelle. And I'm not sure what not on the agenda means. Where can we make public comment?
What do you want to talk about?
2 items.
Uh-huh.
The first item has to do.
You have 3 minutes.
I know.
Okay.
First item has to do with page 3 on this, the agenda for today's meeting. And on page 3, when I was just looking over this, I noticed under old business item number 1, in the bold print down below the item, the actual item itself, I noticed it says planning and zoning recommendation. And then it says unanimous vote to approve this item.
That's what planning and that is there for public knowledge and for the commission knowledge. That is what planning and zoning recommended at their February, I believe it was February 18th meeting.
And that's why I'm standing at the mic. I attended that meeting via Facebook, and we did have the live comment. You know, you got the little thing going, and I think it was Keisha and probably Courtney were reading comments. And I was watching the comments because I'm staring at a computer, so it was easy. And I noticed that one of the planning and zoning members typed in an objection on the Facebook page.
I'm going to turn that over to the attorney.
Okay.
Yep. Only the members in attendance get to participate in the decision-making process.
Okay.
Unless there was a medical emergency. Right.
I kind of figured that, but if I didn't say something here right now, it would have bugged me.
Okay, what's your second item,
My
Ms.
second
Murray?
item, I guess at this point is a question. When does the public get to speak on old business item number 1?
When we have discussion, and I will, when we get to
I did.
Okay, when we
okay.
get to that item, I will lay out an outline of how it's going to happen.
Okay,
And
okay.
you will know. We're
Okay.
not trying to hide anything
No,
from
no,
you.
I'm not.
Okay.
I know that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
Okay, then, is there any other one that would like to speak under public comment? Anybody else? All right, we'll have our commissioner report. And Commissioner Brown, you're first on the list.
I'm good for today.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Allen,
I have nothing at this time.
Commissioner Mathis.
I have nothing.
All right, Commissioner Millender.
One little tidbit about the cemetery. City administrator and I, and this is coming over from last year where we ran out of funds on our improvements. We discussed a nice large flagpole to be erected at the cemetery.
Okay.
So the city administrator and I are back in communication and wanting to move forward with that. If any of the commissioners have some input, please get with Courtney and myself and let me know.
All right. And I think, are we going to be discussing the cemetery? Not tonight under, okay. All right. All right. Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good.
Okay. I just want to tell the commissioners and the public that this month I've communicated with County Commissioner Ward several times regarding repair of the Ryan Drive culvert and the sidewalk in that area. Our last discussion was yesterday when Commissioner Ward explained the county engineer expects complete repairs will cost around $175,000, and that is including the culvert, sidewalk, a new guardrail, reflectors, warning signage, and asphalt. The county engineer has suggested to work directly through Roberts & Roberts Construction, who is mobilized in the county now doing county work. The engineer explained to Commissioner Ward that this will save engineering fees and mobilization costs, of which it sounds like it's going to be a fair amount. $50,000, $60,000, and it will remove the time-consuming bidding process. The county engineer has asked the Roberts & Roberts supervisor to provide a cost estimate. Meanwhile, I guess a week, 10 days ago, Russell, Courtney, and I went out and visited the site. Russell wasn't aware of it, just for a visual assessment. And I've explained that to Commissioner Ward that I must bring this to the board for a decision regarding cost sharing of the repairs with the county. And she fully understands that we'll have to talk about it and vote on it. And she knows that we will have to have a strong interlocal agreement signed by both parties indicating that by partnering to conduct the repairs that neither party is claiming ownership or jurisdiction of that roadway. At this time. But before we make a decision, I want to take this up under Russell's report so he can give us a little bit more about the details. I might suggest that we would direct Russell to contact the county's engineer for a firsthand explanation. He could bring that back to us before we really make any firm decisions. But we'll talk about it some more under Russell's report. And then I just wanted to let you know, too, that Commissioner Ward told me that the county has been awarded an FDOT SCOP grant for resurfacing and repairs to Timber Island Road from Highway 98 all the way out to the county boat ramp. And right now, the engineering design and much of the permitting are complete. They have just found out that through an inspection, repairs are needed to the Post and Bayou Bridge, and so permitting for those repairs are in process. They're about to, once that permitting gets done, they'll be starting on the bidding process, and we all know how that goes, so it could be, you know, late fall or winter before they get started on it, but it is going to happen. And that's a county road, and it's going to be managed under the jurisdiction, the repairs and the resurfacing, just like Tallahassee Street and County Road 67. I want to remind everyone, since no one's here from Camp Gordon Johnston, that the annual Camp Gordon Johnston Reunion Days Parade is on March the 13th at 10:45 a.m., and that's hosted by Camp Gordon Johnston, and the parade will be along Highway 98 as usual. And then the following Saturday is the March 20th. Carrabelle History Museum will host the Carrabelle Culture Crawl from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this is a free cultural event for everyone, highlighting our local culture, art, music, history, and food. And I want to thank staff, Courtney and Keisha, and probably Miranda helped too, for clearing the chambers out of all the furniture and bringing all the furniture back for the election that we had here, the special election that was held in this room on Tuesday. And got good comments from the poll workers. And then did everyone see the expense to budget? No action is needed on that, but it just provides, you know, some information so you can have a clear look and a clear idea of how the budgets are going per line item per department. Okay? And then we'll move on to the attorney's report. Yes.
I understand there is to be a feed after the parade at Sea Quarters. I don't have any details, but I read that somewhere.
Okay, all right, okay. Going forward now, and I did announce it in the meeting that I don't want any calling out from the seating. Okay, thank you. All right.
I have none.
Okay, and how about Ms. Courtney, our city administrator?
I do. February the 23rd, former Commissioner Mel Kelly and Ms. Tamara Allen, both of them with the Waterfront Partnership, and myself had a video conference with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and it was regarding the former Carrabelle Water Plant Treatment Site and a Brownsfield grant. And they, in short, they gave us two options. One was that we could close the former water plant treatment site, we wouldn't have to do anything, but we would have restrictions on the property. The second option that they gave us was that they would they could come in and do more work, perform additional source of removal and sampling activities under the Brownsfield grant program, and that we would have no restrictions on the property. So they've agreed to do that for us. The funding wouldn't become available until October 1st, but we're on the list, and they'll let us know what the next steps are.
Okay.
So. Also, on February the 24th, I received an email from Michael Marone regarding the animal control with the county. And he says that Franklin County staff is in the process of negotiating with the city of Apalachicola to provide animal control services for $3,500 for this year, and that the city law enforcement will accompany the animal control officer during the calls, and the animal control staff will document all calls within the city. And they're still offering that same to us. So I know they had a meeting Tuesday, and I did let him know that we would discuss this at our meeting. So if anyone has any comments or would like to speak on that.
I don't have comments at this moment.
I do.
Okay.
I have a question for all of us. I listened to the county commission meeting, and as the city administrator just reported, that their negotiations, the way I understood it at their public hearing, their negotiations with the city of Apalachicola is pretty much complete, and they've entered into an agreement. Their city manager spoke at the public meeting, and he agreed to their proposal with the interlocal agreement. And my question is, what are we going to do? Help me out here, folks. If the way I see it is, we don't have any animal control in the city of Carrabelle.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
The way I see it, we ain't never had.
We have animal complaint response. I mean, they respond.
But we had that.
We had
But-
that, yes.
But now, we don't have even that. So our citizens doesn't have any animal control service at all now.
If, do we want to have another little workshop so we can have a discussion on this?
I had some conversation with some of the county commissioners.
I have too, as well.
And I know you, yeah. And again, I feel like, and like I said, I asked for help here if I'm missing something. I look at it that we have three choices. If we're going to have animal control service, or if the citizens of Carrabelle is going to have animal control service, I see we have three choices. We either partner with the county with their proposal for $3,500 a year. That's one option. The second option is no animal control at all, totally. And I don't know how the citizens will react to that once they have an effect where they call someone and they can't get anyone. Or the city goes and starts its own animal control. And in my mind, without detailed figures, would cost the citizens $100,000 a year or more, which we do not have in our budget. And I, for one, and I don't think the rest of this board will, but I can't speak for the rest of the board, but myself, I won't vote for a millage increase, which we're almost maxed out to begin with, to provide animal control and spend that kind of money for animal control when we could partner with the county, continue to partner with the county for $3,500.
Now-
That's just my
Right.
opinion.
And I'm not sure that it's $3,500 for the first year.
That's correct.
Right, so we don't know what they're gonna raise it to for the second year.
That's correct.
And we don't know what other item that they may decide that they want to charge us for services. If they need another employee in another department, are they going to, then charge the city again for services?
and
And we do pay, we do pay taxes, and based on our taxable property value amount, they collect their 5 point whatever, their 6 point whatever, just like we do on the 9%. And so they collect some taxes out of Carrabelle.
They
Not-
do, and I didn't bring it up to discuss the taxes they
Yeah,
collect
I
and the taxes
understand.
our citizens pay. What I want our citizens to understand that's looking at Facebook and sitting in this room is right now, we're kind of faced with three choices. And those are the choices we have.
And I will say.
And yes, in the future, we never know what's going to be proposed to us from anyone, whether it's the county or whomever, whether it's gonna be another fee or whatever. But for this year, it's $3,500 for this physical year. And also, in that proposal was they set the $3,500 fee to give it an opportunity to where they have started keeping a detailed report on the number of calls that come in from the two cities. And that's going to happen now for the next 7 months, which is the rest of the fiscal year for the county and for the cities, two cities, if we enter into the agreement. If we
Right.
don't, then we're not gonna be included in it.
So we have to enter into the agreement they're not going to service us, so there's no way they can count or keep a log.
That's correct.
So we've got to pay to have the log kept.
That's correct.
That's,
What I'd like to know, why should the city have to pay? They're already paying the same amount as everyone in the county. So why should the city have to add up and the county gets it for the same thing? Let the whole county pay for it.
And my response, and I agree with Commissioner, but that's an issue that we need to approach our county commission with, not the city of Carrabelle. That needs to go to the county board. They're the ones that have to answer that, not us.
I don't
Right
see
now,
how
we're
they can take any other approach.
We're just faced right now with trying to provide a service for our citizens, or continue to have this service for our citizens.
when I did watch that portion of the meeting, and it was worrisome. You know, it hits you right in the stomach. I said to myself, now if somebody gets bit by a dog, who's going to hold this dog for 14 days to see if it's rabid?
That's correct.
That's concerning. It is very concerning. So honestly, we're caught between a rock and a hard place here.
And with what I said, I'll try it again. I'm gonna make a motion that we enter into the agreement with the county as proposed for the $3,500 for this budget year, and give us the opportunity to get that count done, and continue to provide animal control services for the city, for the citizens of Carrabelle. If we don't do that, then we don't have animal control, or the citizens doesn't have animal control.
And I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion was then to enter into an agreement with the county for the $3,500 for the remainder of this fiscal year, or for the fiscal year.
Well, for
And-
this physical
uh-huh.
year, because basically they've been providing the service already since October.
Should we put some kind of time on it so that if it doesn't work, we've got other choices?
Well, from my understanding, we can.
We're in discussion now.
From my understanding, and the attorney may want to weigh in here, from my understanding in conversation with the commissioners and with listening to the public hearing, we can enter into the agreement and get out of the agreement whenever we choose.
Okay,
Mr. Hartman, do you have a?
No, I mean, and actually, we've had workshops, we've had much discussion about this, and I really don't have anything more to add. I can certainly answer questions, but it is a policy consideration. I mean, it is just what everybody's already talked about. It is a burden that's being placed on Carrabelle citizens. It is an issue that those citizens who are also county residents need to take up with their county commissioners.
Correct.
And it's the city who's taking on this additional burden on behalf of its citizens that, yeah, seems unfair. But that's sometimes what cities have to do to provide for public safety type stuff.
And that's primarily my position as a commissioner sitting on this board tonight, is my concern to continue to provide animal control service for the citizens of Carrabelle at the most reasonable cost to those citizens. We can't afford to do it on our own, and that's the way I see it.
Now, the citizens do know we have gone up to bat for them.
Yeah, well, yes.
They, if they don't, they can find out that we have. At this point, you know, it is the money. The money's coming from the citizens' budget, from the citizens' money. We will have to cut services somewhere else to come up with the, you know, this or whatever they decide they want to charge in the year coming. This will give us a few months to maybe figure out how. Maybe they have offered workshop, or some of the commissioners would like to have workshops on this with the two boards meeting together. So if we've got that kind of thinking on the county commission, maybe we'll be able to have a workshop together sometime. You know, at least we know we have that kind of thinking. We have, you know, a commissioner has extended an olive branch and wants to work together with the two cities. And I would like to be able to work with the county as well. I don't like the position that, you know, we're
Correct.
just, anyway.
And,
We've
and,
got,
and I agree with the mayor, and that's what, basically what I'm saying is it'll give us the opportunity, and the statement I made about, it's now the opportunity for the citizens to get with their county commissioners and voice their concerns with the county commissioners, because some of what they're doing and what they're saying is out of our control.
and we all know we're elected officials, and if the citizens don't like what we're doing, we know what they can do.
Right.
They can hire and they can fire us.
That's correct.
So that, with that said, then, we've got that motion by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown. And is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, then. And that carries reluctantly from me. So we have 4 in favor and 1 opposed. All right, Ms. Courtney?
I received,
Thank you, Courtney.
you're welcome. I received a lease renewal from L3 Harris. They have a lease for a tower site at our water plant that they've had for several years now. They're wanting to renew for 3 additional 5-year terms. I had Dan look at the lease and everything looks good. So staff recommends to renew the lease. We get $1,428 a month from them.
And you say 3 5-year terms?
3 additional 5-year extensions.
And Mr. Hartman, you've reviewed the lease agreement proposal?
I have. I listed off a number of just questions, and Courtney just inserted the different amounts, and yep, legally it looks fine.
So they want to extend it through May of 37. The current lease expires in May of 22, so they're just wanting to renew what they've got now. And it does go up every month. There's a percentage that, or every year it goes up.
Do we need a motion on this, or can we just agree to?
Motion wouldn't hurt, although who is the signatory on it again? Is it the mayor or yourself?
It doesn't say, it just has City of Carrabelle.
Okay, so maybe a motion and designate who is authorized to sign the lease.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, that motion is by Commissioner Allen, second by Commissioner Mathis to extend the lease another 3 5-year terms for Harris Company. Is that what it is there?
Yes,
Okay.
L3 Harris.
And
Okay.
are you authorizing Courtney, the city administrator, to sign the lease?
Yes, she can sign
Perfect.
the lease. That's fine. Can she sign the lease? Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Okay, very good then. All right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any? Commissioner Mathis? And,
I'm sorry.
okay, so we're, everybody in favor, any opposed? Okay, then, the motion carries.
And I just have one last thing I wanted to report, that the mayor and I met with our street and road supervisor, Dustin Putnell, and we went out and toured 4 stormwater drainage problem areas in the city, and he's already started taking care of those. And he went out the next day and started cleaning out a baffle box, and he said the water just started dropping immediately. But he has 4 areas that we're looking at, and we're working on those now.
Good.
And we know we've got other areas, but we've found 4 areas that are in need, so we're working on that, and maybe we need to just review that in our upcoming budget time, because we've got some drainage problems and ditches and such that need assistance.
All over the city.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
So, okay then, anything else, Ms. Courtney? Ms. Keisha, our city clerk?
It's a long meeting already.
I just was gonna announce a few meetings. We've got the CRA meeting, March the 16th at 1:30 PM. We will be having a planning and zoning meeting, March the 18th at 2 p.m. And the competitive Florida partnership virtual asset mapping, March 24th from 1 to 3 p.m.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Keisha? Please come forward to the podium. We're not yelling out from the audience today. Okay, thank you.
Is that posted on Facebook? Is that posted on Facebook? So we'll remember the dates, the reason?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else for Ms. Keisha? Okay, then we'll move forward to Mr. Russell's report with the Novia Consulting.
All right, thank you. To give you an update on our projects, we have the DOT scope project. That's the Hill project. Road paving is well underway there. Looks like most of those streets are paved. We have another scope application for Baywood Drive that we'll be submitting to DOT for this next cycle. For our lighthouse projects, I believe Courtney had some forms to fill out for DEP. You may have already done that. Okay. And so we're continuing to coordinate with the construction agreements with those agencies, and letting will be by the next meeting. On St. Joe summer camp, we have received no correspondence as yet from St. Joe. I'll reach out one more time to them. On our Marine Street project, we're still waiting to hear about funding on that one. And then lastly, the Ryan Drive culvert replacement. I think the mayor covered that in some detail. I'm not sure if we need to discuss that further at this time.
Well, if just to let the commissioners know
Okay.
what you saw and the suggested
Okay.
repairs.
All right, certainly. So it appears to me that there is significant undermining of the roadway on top of these culverts. It's a double barrel culvert under Ryan Drive with head walls on either end. There was an original suggestion that the pipe be lined. That is a possibility. It's a cost savings measure if the pipe is in decent condition with minimal damage that would cause cave-ins on top. I don't think that's what I'm seeing. So that's what precipitated the discussion about the full replacement of that cross drain at $175,000. And I would like to be involved at least to the point of reviewing the plans that the county engineer comes up with, and the construction cost that's provided.
What I would suggest is that, and now Ms. Ward called yesterday and said that the county engineer suggests to leave him out of it, to leave Clay out of it because it would cost a lot. But I would suggest that we direct Mr. Russell to have a conversation with Clay to see exactly what they intend, what they're going to recommend, what Roberts & Roberts is going to go out and look at it and see what Roberts & Roberts is going to propose to repair it and what their cost is going to be. And Russell is the professional, and he can communicate with them and then come back and report to us and give us hopefully by then they'll have Roberts & Roberts will have a quote, and then we can decide whether we want to partner with the county on that. And that's what I would suggest.
Agree.
I had that
Go ahead.
same conversation outside this meeting with some of the county staff, and I agree, Russell needs to be involved. He represents the city of Carrabelle, our engineer, and I think so. The $175,000 you just mentioned, was that your estimate?
No, that was not my estimate.
Okay.
I think that's why they're
That-
saying to leave the engineering out. But
Because what I had understood is there's no estimate yet.
this is a verbal.
Yes.
And Roberts and Roberts Construction is going over there now to.
That's what I understood.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But that would include the sidewalk needs to be lifted up, the culvert replaced, the guardrail needs to be replaced, the reflector signs, warning like dead-end signage there. And then Russell had said, you know, if they really want to do a good asphalt repair, it's going to be like, what'd you say, 200 feet on each, 100 feet on each side or something?
Yes.
Uh-huh. You know, so it's going to be not cheap.
Bottom
but
line, I agree with you. I think Russell needs to be involved.
just to represent us
Yes.
from a professional point of view, so. Okay,
All right.
then, do we need a motion, Mr. Hartman, to do that, or direct Russell? I think let's
Yeah.
have a motion to
You
direct
can't-
Russell.
It's always good.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to direct Russell to proceed with his involvement on this estimated cost for the Ryan Drive culvert repair. It's being discussed.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, that motion is by Commissioner Melander, second by Commissioner Brown. Discussion, and I just want to make sure that all the commissioners understand that we're just in discussion. We have not decided whether or not we're going to partner, and that if we did, we would need an interlocal agreement.
Correct.
So, but we would need to probably move forward sooner than later while Roberts and Roberts is still in the county, if we decide to go that route. Okay? Okay?
All right.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Russell Large? All right, our advisory board reports, the written reports have been submitted for the Carrabelle Waterfront Partnership and the Carrabelle Aviation Advisory Board. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments on those reports? Okay, they're available. If the public wants to see those reports, you can request that from the from the city clerk's office. And we'll move forward to the public hearing. Mr. Hartman, we have a resolution and a proclamation.
All right. This is Resolution 02-2021, and it is a resolution of the City of Carrabelle opposing elimination of the statutory authorization for regional planning councils in Florida as proposed in Senate Bill 62 or similar proposed legislation and providing for an effective date. Whereas the Appalachia Regional Planning Council, the ARPC, covers a 9-county geographical area, is comprised of Calhoun, Franklin, Gadsden, Gulf, Jackson, Jefferson, Leon, and Wakulla counties, and 28 municipalities contained therein with over 490,000 residents. And whereas the council is a multi-purpose regional governmental entity with policy responsibilities in the areas of affordable housing, economic development, emergency preparedness, energy, regional health, natural resources, urban planning, and regional transportation. And whereas whereas for more than 5 decades, regional planning councils have served the public as Florida's only multi-purpose regional entities that coordinate intergovernmental solutions to multi-jurisdictional issues identified by their member local governments. And whereas the 67 counties in the state are divided into 10 regional planning councils, which perform the functions in economic development, transportation, emergency preparedness, regional convening, and resilience to the extent and as directed by their member counties, cities, and gubernatorial appointees. And whereas the regional planning councils compete for and bring to Florida millions of dollars in federal funds for economic development, transportation, emergency preparedness, brownfield remediation, and resiliency initiatives that would otherwise go to other states. And whereas the regional planning councils receive no regular general appropriation for operation from the state and instead are supported by federal grant funds, local dues, local contracts, and state contracts for specific programs implemented on behalf of the state. And whereas regional planning councils no longer have any regulatory authority and are no longer involved in the developments of regional impact, DRIs. And whereas regional planning councils serve a critical role in hazardous material response coordination and training throughout the local emergency planning committees, LEPCs, operated by each council. And whereas the regional planning councils regularly assist state agencies in implementing their statutory duties and legislative directives, along with coordinating these duties and directives with local input at no charge to the state. And whereas proposed Senate Bill 62 will remove authorization and all references to regional planning councils from Florida statutes, depriving the people of the state of the important work that councils perform and federal funds they bring to Florida. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Carrabelle that Section 1, the legislature is urged not to pass Senate Bill 62 unless it is modified to no longer remove regional planning councils from the Florida statutes, and Section 2, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption hereof.
All right, then, this is a resolution similar to the letter of support regarding removing all mention of regional planning councils from the Florida statutes. So it's a resolution asking the Senate to not do that. So would we like to have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the
Okay.
resolution.
Second.
All right, that motion is to approve the resolution by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Mathis. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And the proclamation, sir?
All right, Proclamation 01-2021, National Volunteer Week, April 18th through 24th, 2021. Whereas the entire community can inspire, equip, and mobilize people to take action that changes the world, and whereas individuals and communities are at the center of social change, discovering their power to make a difference, and whereas during the week of April 18th through 24th, 2021, all over the nation, volunteers will be recognized for their commitment to service, and whereas the giving of oneself in service to others empowers the giver and the recipient, and whereas our county's volunteer force of 63 million is a great treasure, and whereas volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive community, and whereas a volunteer saves on a national average $27.20 an hour for the organization it volunteers for, whereas in Florida, a volunteer saves the organization it volunteers for an average of $24.93 an hour. Whereas during the past year, many volunteers were faced with the same challenges as the rest of the country, but still gave of themselves to make the community better. Now, therefore, we, Carrabelle City Commission, do hereby proclaim April 18th through 24th, 2021, National Volunteer Week in Carrabelle, and also urge our fellow citizens to volunteer in Carrabelle and Franklin County. Also, we urge others to recognize those who serve by tirelessly sharing their time and talent with those in need.
All right, National Volunteer Week.
Mayor, with pleasure, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have some wonderful volunteers in our community, and I really appreciate them, and I know
do
the rest
too.
of you do.
All right. So we have that motion to approve proclaim National Volunteer Week in support of that, April 18th through April 24th. That motion is by Commissioner Millender, and the second is by Commissioner Brown. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right. Okay. Right here, I was going to offer a 5-minute break to make sure that everyone has been allowed to submit their speaker card to be able to speak on this next item under old business. Has everyone that intends to speak under the next item, have they submitted a speaker card? Do we need to take a little bit of a break to make sure that everyone has submitted their speaker card?
Fine with me if that's what you want to do.
I just want to make sure everyone's got, if anyone wants to speak under this item okay. Now, on this item, the same standard of conduct guidelines are going to, that I laid out, they're going to be at the beginning of this meeting. It carries through this meeting. So we're through this item. It's old business, item 1. And this board now is convening as a quasi-judicial board for a quasi-judicial hearing for item 1 under old business. Disapprove the conceptual site plan for the retail sales at 204 St. James Avenue. It's the vacant land between the old Gulf State Bank and the post office on Highway 98. Now, members of the public who have submitted a speaker card will have a one-time 3-minute opportunity to speak at the podium. One time only at the podium. Staff will call out the names of those speakers that wish to speak one at a time, and they will approach the podium. The city attorney is going to give us a briefing first, and that will be followed by our professional staff, Russell Large, our engineer, and then the applicant will speak next, and the commission will be allowed to ask questions. Next, the members of the public who have submitted their speaker cards will be called by staff to come to the podium and comment. Questions will be taken from the podium, those at the podium only, and the questions will be directed to me, the chairperson. I will defer those questions to the appropriate speaker or the appropriate staff member. Commissioners are not compelled to answer questions. This all will be followed by commission discussion. The city staff and the applicant and the commission members will have unlimited time to speak. If there appears that there's someone with competent, credible, substantial evidence, or someone with credentials that would like to speak, I will certainly be considerate and let that individual speak longer than 3 minutes. So, before I turn the meeting over to Mr. Hartman, I just want to give a bit of history like I do, because it's been a while since this commission last took up this topic. We took it up on November the 5th, 2020, where the conceptual / preliminary site plan dated October 2, 2020 was presented for action. And that was the same site plan that had been presented to the P&Z on October the 15th, 2020. During that November 5th commission meeting, I went into great detail expressing my concerns regarding the proposed project, the exact same concerns I had expressed to Mr. Collins Moe on October the 15th, 2020. I have mentioned those concerns to a few citizens outside a public meeting, as I believe other commissioners have done. I will not go into such detail regarding those concerns at this meeting. They were fully covered under the November 5th meeting and can be seen on the video of that meeting. I want to remind everyone that during that November 5th discussion by this board, along with multiple members of the public in attendance and staff, carried out a lengthy, productive discussion regarding ingress-egress to the proposed retail development. It was overwhelmingly agreed in public that if access could be attained via Highway 98, then this would be an acceptable situation. On November 5th, at that same meeting, this board unanimously approved the conceptual preliminary site plan dated October 12, 2020. And at that same time, this board directed the city's engineer in a public meeting to follow up with the FDOT and applicant to assist with finding a way the FDOT might allow access off Highway 98 to the proposed property development. All were in agreement. A few days later, I met with the city engineer and Courtney at the post office parking lot to review ingress-egress suggestions, and I will go into detail regarding that and talk with the commissioners about it. They have not been reported on that because this is the first time we have met together since November the 5th on this item. But when Russell's up, we'll go into detail about that. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Hartman now.
Okay, at the last meeting of the P&Z, this matter was before the Planning and Zoning Commission on preliminary site plan approval that we also call conceptual approval. And what I did at the beginning of that meeting to kind of clear up the confusion and just advise everybody of kind of the ground rules and considerations from a legal standpoint of quasi-judicial proceedings. Because historically, and I say historically, but we just haven't had that many of these, and certainly none controversial in a decade or so. So I'm going to run through that again quickly for the benefit of everybody listening, as well as the commission. So first, everybody needs to understand that there is basically two types of decisions that are made by a commission, and they are legislative decision-making decisions and quasi-judicial decisions. And the legislative process and decisions are ones where policy is made or created by the commission. The quasi-judicial action is when a party makes application to the city for some form of approval, and policy in the form of the land development regulations that have already been adopted are applied to that application. And that's what we have before us today, is an application for a site plan approval. And this is on, again, 2 steps, preliminary site plan approval and then final site plan approval. And we're here tonight on preliminary. So the types of quasi-judicial proceedings include applications to the cities for rezoning, site plan approval, which is today's, special exceptions and variances. There are rules and standards set forth in the land development regulations regarding the criteria that must be included and met by an applicant in order to obtain a site plan, approved site plan, final site plan. Quasi-judicial matters are similar to court proceedings, and so they're similar to court proceedings, quasi-judicials are, but the legislative proceedings, a commission can take into account anything it considers important to help make its decision, and this includes popularity and public acceptance of a particular policy. In quasi-judicial proceedings, the commission is not allowed to take into consideration popularity of a particular development proposal. They can only consider competent and substantial evidence in support or against the application. So the term competent means that a person presenting the evidence is qualified to give evidence on the subject. If special training or specialized knowledge is required, it is necessary for the person testifying to prove his or her competency to testify as an expert on that particular subject. And again, these are subjects such as engineering or stormwater, something like that. If you want to testify to a matter that requires a special academic degree or training, you must make these degrees and training known to the commission, who's the decision maker. Substantial means the evidence is sufficient, relevant, and credible, and can serve to support the ultimate decision of the commission, whether it's approval or denial. Citizens who want to participate in a quasi-judicial hearing process cannot testify as to matters that would require expert opinions, but they can testify as to factual matters. So in any element of the case that would not require specialized training or academic degree. So this would be, again, pointing out, in my opinion, it would be pointing out where an applicant does not meet criteria as a matter of fact, not expert opinion. So a party that fails to, and this is sort of from case law, that a party that fails to present its experts at a quasi-judicial proceeding may never have an opportunity to do so later, because we are creating a record here, and on our notice it talks about if someone wants to keep a verbatim record, they need to get a court reporter and get a transcript, and all subsequent reviews of a decision that you all would make are going to be based on that record, and you don't get a second bite at that apple, whether it's the city doesn't get a second bite, the commission making the decision, or someone opposed or in favor of the application. So as far as the right to ask questions or cross-examine witnesses, all citizens do not have the right to cross-examine witnesses. Only interested persons, the applicant or the city, can do so. And interested persons are someone that has an interest greater than the public in general. So typically these are business owners or property owners that are adjacent to the use, that are going to be directly affected by it, not the community in general. Attorney testimony is not evidence. So even if which I will try not to do on this or anything in the future, my opinion or something is not evidence. I'm here to provide clarification on applicable law, and I can cross-examine on behalf of the staff, the commission. I can cross-examine witnesses, and if I think they're not, well, I can cross-examine them. So that is a role I can play. And the test is not which side has more experts. The test is whether there's competent, substantial evidence to support the decision that you make, the commission makes. So once an applicant has demonstrated that their application or their request satisfies the standards set forth in the land development regulations, it becomes the obligation of the commission to receive and consider evidence of specific facts in opposition to the application. Politics cannot play a part in the decision. It does not make a difference who has the most people or supporters either direction at a quasi-judicial hearing. So the record, I think we just talked about this, but the record at a quasi-judicial hearing is everything. So you do want to get, if you have something to say, you want to get it on the record. And the commission must look to the standards in the land development regulations, testimony supporting or opposing the application, and documentation evidence on each of the land development reg standards that apply to this site plan approval, both at the preliminary stage and the final stage. So, and I can certainly answer any questions now and then while this is going on, as inevitably they may come up.
Okay, do the commissioners have questions? Okay, so we know that we are in a quasi-judicial hearing, and that we are basing our decision will be based on fact, that we are not making policy here at this time. We are not in legislative mode at this time.
Correct.
Okay. And I just wanted to clear one thing up. I noticed that there was some confusion regarding the term conceptual, preliminary, but we've been using conceptual site plan, preliminary site plan, pretty much like
Synonymously.
yes,
They
synonymous with one and the
interchangeably.
other,
Yep.
yes. So when we say conceptual site plan, we mean the same thing as when we say preliminary site plan.
Correct.
Okay. And then the next step from here, if we move forward, it would be called a site plan.
Site plan approval. Yep.
Okay, site plan approval. All right, so that just everyone understands what we're up against and what we're doing. All right, so no questions then at this time to Mr. Hartman. And y'all feel free to ask questions at any time, okay? Then we'll have Mr. Large come. And he's going to need a microphone, somebody. And you all, commissioners, you're welcome to ask Mr. Hartman questions at any time. Just signal him and let him know you've got a question about his descriptions here.
Okay, so the first, can everyone hear me okay? All right. The first site plan that was submitted for review was on October 15th, and that was to the P&Z board. And that site plan went to the commission on November 5th. And this is the site plan. Of course, here's the Family Dollar building on the property, which shows access onto Tallahassee Street. It shows the truck access from Tallahassee Street into the property, and then exiting on, what is that, Avenue A? Yeah. Can you pan up just a little bit for me? Other way. Okay. So one of the comments that was raised during those meetings was the issue of access to this property from Tallahassee Street. And there was much opposition about truck access from Tallahassee Street at that meeting. During the commission meeting on November the 5th, the issue was raised about having, or why couldn't there have access onto US 98. So it was offered to the commission by me that we would look into that in an effort to mitigate the issues or the concerns of access from Tallahassee Street. So subsequently after that meeting, we spoke with the Department of Transportation, and the post office entrance here is actually closer than the typical standard from the intersection. That was one reason why the access on 98 was not being allowed by the department. So through that discussion with the department, we said, would you consider if we had a joint access on 98 into the property and then close this driveway to the post office and have this loop into the Family Dollar site so that you can have access from 98, okay? That was a discussion that we had with the department, and we let the applicant know that discussion as well. And again, that was all in an effort to mitigate the concern of access of trucks from Tallahassee Street.
And then
Okay.
go back before you do that, please, Ms. Courtney. I just want to explain because it seems like some people think that we've done something different here. But Courtney and I met with Mr. Large a few days after. I don't know. I can try to find it on my calendar somewhere. I've got it. I didn't write it down, though. But we did meet there a few days after the November 5th meeting because there were suggestions on how to remedy the situation that Mr. Russell just described. When I met with them, I suggested that the egress for the post office be closed because I have sat on the community traffic safety team for 6 or 7 years, chaired the team, communicated with the FDOT many times regarding this access here, and they've actually sent drawings back to me as chair of the traffic safety team on what we could do to make it safer there. But anyway, I suggested that if there was a possibility that the developer could deed 15 to 20 feet, 30 feet, I don't know, on the north side of the post office, and I have not had an opportunity to bring this to the commission until today, because we have not met on this item until today, that we could have a U-shaped driveway around the post office and not involve any of egress, not sharing egress with the city, with the post office, with the Family Dollar, and a U-shaped, and they would come in from the north, enter the post office from the north, diagonal parking on the north side of the post office, and come around and exit on the south side, diagonal parking on the south side. And I also suggested to close that egress at the post office, and that would give more parking there. And then possibly that would allow, the FDOT would allow an opening on 98 for the proposed property. So that's that. That's how that happened.
Okay. Subsequently, the applicant, I should say that the first site plan was actually approved by the commission.
Yes,
It was
that-
approved by
Go back again, Courtney.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. This site plan was approved by the P&Z board and was approved by the commission on November the 5th. All right. Subsequently, the applicant, in an effort of good faith, developed an updated site plan that actually showed what this configuration might look like. Again, this is preliminary and conceptual, but this would show this shows how the post office truck would enter the site and back up to unload and then leave. That's the post office access. Typical person visiting the post office would enter here, park, visit the post office, and then exit out of the shared driveway with the Family Dollar in that concept plan. Right, and this is the site plan that is being considered tonight. It was considered at the P&Z meeting on February the 16th, I believe that's the date, and that's what's before the commission tonight. Commissioners, is there any further explanation? Yes, thank you. Additionally, this is the same site plan, but this shows how the delivery truck, the large truck, would access and serve the site. It's the same site plan with the there's a computer program that they utilized called AutoTurn, and this shows the wheel path as well as the extent of the outer limits of the truck and how it would access the site, pull in here and back in to make the delivery and then leave. But just for clarification, that is the same site plan as the previous exhibit that was here. That just shows the truck access.
Okay, then, and for also for further clarification, there was a comment on the P&Z meeting. I didn't attend the meeting in person, but I did watch that that the post office or Gander's delivery truck comes in the wrong way. and that they would continue to come in the wrong way. Well, I did ask the chief to go over and check with Ganders to make sure, because that they should not be coming in the wrong way. That's dangerous. And come to find out, that had been stopped back 3 or 4 years ago, before Ganders originally, 10 years ago. So the delivery trucks for Ganders and the delivery trucks for the post office are not coming in the wrong way. We've got warning signs up there, do not enter. We've painted arrows on the road, on the egress to pointing out, and we've got stop signs up there. So the police department has kept a watch on that, and they're not coming in the wrong way. So that was an incorrect statement that was made during the P&Z meeting.
Okay, any further questions?
I have a
Okay.
question for you. Let's get back up here. So I know that obviously the semi-trucks can fit through there. Have they verified that the garbage trucks would be able to pull in and loop around the same way to get all the way to the back?
That's a good question. The presumption would be that if an interstate semi can access that area, that a garbage truck can as well. But that would be something that the applicant would need to demonstrate ultimately on his final site plan.
Do y'all have any questions at this time?
I don't have a question, but Russell, for the public's benefit, you may want to reiterate the closing of the exit from the post office on the 98 and creating parking spots.
Okay, thank you. When the post office driveway is closed, we would restripe that pavement width there for additional parking spaces. Now, there are parking spaces that exist along this edge.
Correct.
And so these would replace those along that edge.
And Mayor, just to comment, I spent some time with the post office personnel and let them review this plan and just have a discussion with them. And they felt like that particular plan would benefit their delivery truck, make it much easier for them to get in and out of there. And as far as their parking for the employees, it wouldn't affect them to that degree, because you're adding the spots where the current exit goes out on the 98. You're adding the parking spots there. And I had a concern about the private property owners there, about adversely affecting them. And I don't see, at this point, any adverse effect to those property owners that live there and have businesses there. But anyways, just a comment that, the public's getting an opportunity to speak, but that's just a comment. Sure.
I thank you for going over to the post office employees and asking that. That's good information to know. I was concerned about if they would be able to work with that.
And they also, Mayor, or for the public and for you, Russell, and for the mayor, that they confirmed what the mayor was saying about the delivery trucks going to the other businesses, that those same things that the mayor just shared. And actually, while I was there visiting and we were out walking the parking lot and talking, one of the Gander service semis came in, and he did not come in the wrong way. He came in the way he was supposed to.
All right, then.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything?
One more clarification. I just wanted to clarify, because I have noticed that it was a concern in some comments from the public that this would not affect any easement on the surrounding properties. Is that correct? Besides the post office? Like these two buildings on the corner? Is that correct?
I am not aware of an easement.
I didn't think there was one.
Right. Now, I will say this is a preliminary site plan. They still have a lot of work to do, actual engineering. And so which would include survey of the post office site, and that would identify if there were any easements present at that time.
But I will say that I know that the small white building there, right here, next to the Rio Carrabelle building, over 50%, probably 75% of that building is in the right-of-way now. It is, and it's right in the right-of-way, so talk about easement. It was put there years ago when the road wasn't so large, so. All right. Then, if there's nothing else, we'll have Mr. Mo come up. I always want to call him Mo Collins, but it's Collins Mo.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you guys for having me again. A couple months flew by. I don't know about how fast it went by for you guys, but it was quick for me. We took a bunch of consideration to heart and came up with our best proposed plan, we thought, and it made sense to come back to conceptual because it was a dramatically different plan with access onto 98 and not access onto Tallahassee or Avenue A. So that is why we proceeded to come back and do the process over once again. I also have some pictures, what I think would be beneficial for everyone to see, which is what we're envisioning the actual building to look like. There will be obviously a couple changes. It'll be a Family Dollar / Dollar Tree logo. So that will be the actual logo of the building and on the signage. Landscaping is going to be a little bit different. I'm not entirely sure what type of trees and plants we would proceed with. But for the Commission's opinion, I think it is valid to show this. This is how we're thinking the building's gonna look like. We're excited about it. I think it looks really, really good. It's not anything that I've seen the public's brought up into consideration and what they've complained about. This is a new prototype building that just kind of recently came out, so we're excited about it, and I thought it was worthy of just showing you guys. These are just kind of what the sides and the backing would look like. The coloring would be slightly different, obviously, but do you guys have any questions after looking at that?
I do. I'm writing them down now.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sure.
And recently, I walked the site, the northwest corner of the property. It may be a little picky, but the northwest corner of the property is too old age.
Can't hear you.
Raise your hand, please. Please do not yell out anymore. Thank you.
The northwest corner of the property.
Yes, sir.
There's 2 old age oak trees on the property. In your planning process, in design and building, is there any way to save those 2 old age oak trees?
What we'll find out the next stage of design, if we do get to the next stage.
If possible?
If possible, we
Yeah,
would
if
very
possible.
like to do that.
I would like for you to consider that.
Yes, sir. The main issue that we're going to come up with here is going to be stormwater for sure.
Sure,
So
I understand.
that's another point I wanted to bring up to the commission, that when we do go from conceptual to the next stage, there will be slight changes in the plan. There always seems to be when we're going through the design. When you spend thousands of dollars on soil testing and engineering, the way that property is going to be slightly different than what it is now.
Correct.
So I want to make that very clear that it's going to be almost impossible to keep it exactly how you see it. So with that said, I'm trying to be forthcoming and hope we can work together instead of there being opposition of a single slight change. And that was kind of what we're concerned about as a developer, because my job's on the line. An engineer is going to spend hundreds of hours designing. That's third party. There will be environmental people that will come out and spend hours and hours on reports and soil testing once this process is kicked off from conceptual approval to the site plan. And there isn't, there's just got to be some type of good faith that if we are approved here tonight, that this isn't going to be a nitpicking, lack of a better term, way to get this to everyone's best interest in the best plan possible that we have with the budget that we have.
My comments
Yes, sir.
are of interest or concern. They're not demands. They're things that I would like to ask if it goes forward that you consider.
Yes, sir.
And my other part of that was the perimeter landscaping
Yes,
around
sir.
that property. There's also quite a few, I'm an old forester. There's quite a few really nice palm trees and natural vegetation there. If that fence were removed, and which I'm sure probably would be, and landscaped appropriately along the perimeter, some of that could be utilized and made look very nice.
Yes, sir.
And that's just a thought, that's a suggestion.
Yes, sir. Can we put the plan back up on stage, if we can? So the slight changes that I'm anticipating would be, after speaking with some local engineers, was that stormwater area would most likely be larger than that. The way where we have the building configured, it's not under the roots of the first oak tree, but it's getting closer to there. But that is based off an aerial, so I mean it could come closer to the highway. I'm not entirely sure at this point.
Understandable, but it's just a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and then I do have concerns about the landscaping, and I went into detail with I've mentioned that to you on the phone during our conversation on the 15th of October, and then I did mention it on November the 5th. We won't get into it now, but I have concerns about that, as well as signage, and I see that you're showing that the dumpster is very well concealed, which I have expressed concerns about that. And security lighting. I don't know if we saw security lighting in those pictures or not. Yes, okay. And then you mentioned the coloring would be different than what we see in these pictures.
It's.
Did
I
you
don't
see-
have a rendering of what the new,
Okay.
what the exact new storefront's going to look like, but majority of what we're proposing will look similar to this. Coloring will be different, and the symbol will be different because it'll be a combo store.
And Commissioner Brown, did you have any questions?
Well, I know in the November 5th meeting, you said that you would work with the city on designing the facade to maintain the historic feel using the Florida Cracker design.
We would take that into consideration. But
Okay.
what we've come up with from a cost standpoint at this point is that will be the most upgraded that we're able to afford, is what you're saying.
Okay.
And I'd like to ask the city if they have a city administration, if they have there's something that we're not meeting here standard-wise. Just want to reiterate that everything that we're doing here is under the land use regulations.
As far as conceptual.
At this point.
Is that correct, Mr. Large? Also, he reviews the conceptuals as well to make sure they are meeting our land development regulations. And I just want to mention, I Googled Dollar Tree. When I saw Dollar Tree in those pictures, Dollar Tree did have pharmacies at one time. I don't know if they still do, but they did have back in 2012. They had some, West Park, Florida actually had a Dollar Tree with a pharmacy in it. So, do you all have any other questions at this time? But you understand, we do have concerns.
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
There is one.
All right.
And again, this is not based on what my decision's gonna be. It's a concern, and this has to do with our city fire station. I haven't seen an actual survey, but currently by appearance and the way it's been for years, there's part of the fire station's building, one of the small detached buildings from the main station, that appears it's sitting right on the property line. There's actually no room for the fire department to maintain the bushes and what have you along the property line, because right now, the way the fence is presented, standing, it's like right up against the building. I would like to have some further discussion with you on that and look at that.
Yes, sir. I can tell you already,
Yeah.
if we need to convey a couple feet
Yeah.
at closing, that's more than
Okay.
doable.
Okay.
And that's just in consideration of the maintenance. Makes it very difficult for the city crews to maintain the area around that little building.
Yes, sir.
All right. If there's no further questions from the commission, then we'll move to public comment. Is there any further questions from the commission at this time? Now, you can ask questions at any time. So don't feel like this is your only time, commissioners, to ask questions, and staff as well. Okay, then, we're going to move to public comment, and staff will call out the names as they pull them out of the box, and you'll come for a one-time opportunity, 3 minutes, please.
We got Lee Mathis, 702 Georgia Avenue, Carrabelle.
Good evening. I am a 30-year resident of the city of Carrabelle, and I am excited to see that going in our downtown district. I have worked with the city of Apalachicola for 31 years, so I do know a lot about planning and zoning and how the process works. That is zone C1, which is a retail business, so legally they have met your land development code requirement. Obviously, they do have some work to do with the site plan, but that is not something that can't be worked out with engineering and such. But I am really excited to see something that's actually going to be used instead of a vacant lot that's grown up with weeds and all of that. So I'm really, really excited. And I just want to say that the opposing citizens that do not like that do not speak for the entire population of the city of Carrabelle.
Okay, and thank you, Ms. Matheson. Ms. Mathis, you were with the city of Apalachicola 31 years. Most of that time you were the city clerk. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so you're very familiar with the planning and zoning and land use.
I'm all familiar with quasi-judicial proceedings, yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, I thank you very
Absolutely.
much for stepping up. Thank you.
Next up, we have Steve Allen, 1204 Gulf Avenue, Carrabelle.
Hello, I'm a citizen of Carrabelle. I do have a master's in architecture, but I'm not a licensed architect, so other than that, in terms of standing. The new configuration of the lot with the access off of 98 removes the access from Tallahassee Street. In terms of context, you asked about cracker-style architecture. I feel that the most offending thing about the particular site plan we're looking at today is the angle of the building. It doesn't sort of fit with the grid and layout of the street. It does align with 98 that bends in that area. I think if the building were rotated about 45 degrees to the right in a clockwise direction, and a variance was put together where the building could go all the way up against Tallahassee Street, it would align with the front of the buildings, and it would be it would fit better in the community. So you would just basically rotate the parking lot. All the other access points in terms of the drive and the trucks getting in would work as well. and it would present that sort of zero lot line that falls along 98 in that way. And I think if that were a consideration, I think it would make the building fit more into sort of the traditional way in which that street is addressed on Tallahassee Street. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Steve Allen. We appreciate that, and I will go into, after we have public comment, I took a note of it, and I'm going to ask more questions about that. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, next up.
Suzanne Woodcock, 229 River Road.
I reviewed the video of the November 5th City Commission meeting and offers the following comments. Some items of concern is the mayor discussed this would cause a substantial increase in tax revenue, and the increased tax revenue from the property may be used possibly to provide a facade grant to the developer. The discussion of tax revenue and other issues not related to the Land Development Code are not relevant when considering this site plan. Further, it was stated that we cannot tell someone they can't sell their property unless they put a certain use there. Denial of this site plan does not tell the owner they cannot sell their property and does not say what needs to go on the property. The review of any site plan should be based on what is required by the city's regulations and compatibility with adjacent land uses. The only item provided by Twin Rivers, the developer, was a drawing of a proposed site plan, no other items and no other presentation by the applicant, and the rep, Mr. Collins Moe, confirmed that was all he had at this stage. Cliff Butler, the property owner, stated that First Street is part of his property, and that goes through the middle, somewhere in the middle of this property, and that we should ask DOT to open that. If there is a street right-of-way and there is a road that is on this property, then that may be unusable land, and that should be shown on any site plan. The city attorney stated the discussion of that and the right-of-way was getting into step 2, which is not correct. Any preliminary site plan must show the roads and the right-of-ways on the subject property. Then the city attorney discussed at that meeting that the final site plan would go back to planning and zoning, but I couldn't find anywhere what provisions in the city regulations would require this to go back to planning and zoning. And the city attorney outlined what review is required at. I'm calling the preliminary site plan at this stage. Let's call this a preliminary site plan instead of a conceptual plan, because the term used in the Land Development Code is a preliminary site plan. I noticed today you've changed it now and you're calling it a preliminary instead of conceptual, but what the Planning and Zoning Commission looked at and what is on your agenda item is calling it a conceptual site plan. The city attorney referenced the Land Development Code Part 11.04 site plan review and called it a two-step process and stated that step 1 determines if the preliminary conceptual site plan meets the comprehensive plan, the Land Development Code, including setbacks, impervious surfaces, floodplain, traffic circulation, etc. And the final review would go into more detail. City attorney stated step 1 is a high-level review to see if this plan meets the land development criteria. A conceptual site plan, again, is not a process in the Land Development Code, and I could not locate the term conceptual site plan in the November 5th meeting. So and the last comment I wish to make is that there's discussion, and discussion is good, and there's discussion of other items, landscaping and the property, the developer is talking about different things that they might do and the pictures, and those are not relevant at this stage of the review. The only thing that should be relevant is what is required of the land development regulations and whether there was even a complete application that was submitted as required by the land development regulations for what you're now calling a preliminary site plan, other than just a drawing. Thank you.
Miss Suzanne, and I'll ask you the same question I asked Miss Lee. What are your credentials? Do you have credentials in the state of Florida, land use and zoning or anything like that? What's your history?
I worked as a land use planner for the state of Florida and a land use consultant for various private entities, and for myself, I was, as a state planner with the Department of Community Affairs, I was qualified and testified as an expert witness on land use and comprehensive planning in the state of Florida on numerous cases.
Okay, and you have credentials for that, or?
I was recognized by the courts as a land use planner based on my qualifications.
Okay,
yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up.
Rod Dashy,
Good evening. I'm one of the representatives from Vision Carrabelle acting this evening. One of my sections to cover is that the fact that, okay, we've positioned the site plan before you as this, in the past, it's a new site plan back in the planning and zoning. Now, we're asking that the city, following completely the comprehensive plan and the land development code. So the site plan, again, does not meet a lot of the regulations, and data analysis is not competent with substantial evidence in it. We need to provide a demonstrate site plan which meets the land development code. The fifth meeting, elected representatives raised concern about the traffic flow and identified a problem. Did not have required information at that point again. Decision on the preliminary site plan should be based on facts on whether the application meets the comp plan and the LDC criteria. We must look, as a city, you city folks have got to look at a full application submitted by the applicant, then the comprehensive plan and LDC to determine if the application will meet the criteria at this stage. If deficiencies exist at this stage, the city needs to decide if code requirement deficiencies can be cured. In order to get approval on each stage, the developer must show how the proposed application will meet any cure conditions. And without competent substantial evidence, a decision to approve the application is going to be, will be premature. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. All right, next up.
Rhonda Skipper, 1434 Highway 67.
Good evening, Commissioners. I know you guys have a very tough decision before you tonight, and that's what we elected you to do. And I just want to say I'm not definitely in favor of the store that is going in. However, if this store meets the use codes and they provide all the documentation required for this project to move forward, then it should move forward. Because what frightens me more than this dollar store is my rights being taken away and told that I can't do something that's being zoned for me to do it. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rhonda. Okay, next up.
Martha Murray, 408 Marine Street. She had to leave. Angie Prentice, 212 East Meridian.
It is the duty of the city engineer to have substantial and competent evidence at their disposal to make recommendations, like you said. Current site plan is to close off the post office access to Highway 98, but the city must first analyze if this change of the post office site would comply with the LDC. The city and developer are proposing redevelopment of the post office site, which will require a development review. This post office redevelopment plan must meet all comp plans and LDC requirements. City Commission must then vote before selling, granting an easement, or any other transactions of city-owned land. This must be done before considering any site plan which incorporates these changes. City staff must hold all applications to the standards of the city, including the comprehensive plan and the LDC. City must separate discussions about tax revenue, etc., from the decision-making process to prevent bias towards an applicant. Process followed to date does not appear to have applied any regulations of the city, did not follow any rules or standards of LDC in approving. The city can only consider substantial, competent evidence to determine whether the applicant complies with the requirements. None of this has been provided. Burden is on the applicant to show they meet the criteria. City commissioners can say this application does not meet these requirements. For example, it does not meet LDC requirements for site plans, preliminary. Site plans cannot be approved based on an incomplete application, and lack of information required by LDC. This is about doing what's right and sticking with it. We've had a petition of people with their opinions on what they want to see, and we have gotten 248 signatures that do not want this Family Dollar. All right, and I also have a list I have this to turn into.
Is those 200 applicants citizens of Carrabelle?
Not all of them. A lot of them.
Them is outside the hell stay out.
Okay, well then we've got 91 who are Carrabelle. 91 of these are Carrabelle.
Well, that's still not even half of the people of Carrabelle. When you get 51%, I'll listen at you.
Okay. Interesting.
All right,
Okay.
and thank you for your presenting your petition there and having the numbers broken out. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Right, sure.
Are you?
Well, we
do you-
also have a public records request that we did already put in on, sorry, was it yesterday? Thank you. But I have that typed out if you'd like to see which. I'm forwarding them a copy. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
David Prentice, 212 East Meridian.
Good evening. I will be discussing the Family Dollar site plan before the City Commission this evening. And this is about process. This isn't about engineering or anything like that. This is just about reading the code. The City Commission this evening is again looking at what the city attorney has called a conceptual site plan. I understand there's been a lot of confusion about conceptual, original, whatever, but it has been called a conceptual site plan. It is not the same site plan originally approved by the city. The applicant provided this new site plan to the Planning and Zoning, and now tonight the City Commission. During the November 5th City Commission meeting, it was shared that kind of, we're going through some kind of process. It wasn't kind of clear what the process was, but to be clear, the Land Development Code sets out the actual process for review. The city attorney told you, the commission, about the site plan review procedures in part 11.04.00, but did not review the requirements of part 11.02.00. With the time allotted here, I cannot present all the requirements of that section, which outlines procedures for obtaining development orders. But of note, section 11.02.03.02.06, which is the action upon receipt of application, states that, quote, recommendations and decisions rendered by each reviewing authority shall be based upon the application, supporting documentation, compliance with standards and requirements of this code, comments from reviewers, and approvals required by other agencies. Now, this is important. To date, the only document looked at in this entire decision-making process appears to be a drawing labeled site plan. In closing, Ms. Mayor, I have one question, likely for Mr. Hartman. Is this site plan being reviewed by the City Commission today a development order? And if so, is this a final development order?
Okay, all right, Mr. Hartman.
All right. It is not a final development order. It is the preliminary, and we've referred to it as conceptual. It is referenced as that in some other places, but if you look at the chart on 11.00.01 in there, which I'm sure you've seen, and we are following that process, which has a preliminary site plan review, which the way I am interpreting that line where it says site plan / preliminary plan, and it has review by staff, review by P&Z, and then level 3 review, decision making by the commission, so a vote. And we are on the preliminary plan stage, not the final site plan stage, as far as traffic analysis and all the detailed design work that the applicant has yet to demonstrate they've complied with.
Right. And I think it's important for the commission to know. I mean, Mr. Moe just got up here and said,
oh, we're going to invest a bunch of money in, in good faith if we do that. Well, there actually hasn't been anything done for review except that right there. So there's no decision to be made without any good technical evidence provided.
No, and I mean, you are correct. And I think, obviously, the commission, and I think the commission understands this, we have talked about it at past meetings, but again, some people are coming into the process at different points, is it needs to be crystal clear that we have really this sort of obviously opposing but similar concerns. Is the applicant, from what I'm hearing, does not want to spend the money to go through all those, design criteria unless the commission, which he has the right to ask for this, gives him the go-ahead on the level 3 review of the preliminary plan. And the same thing with, for instance, folks in opposition to this, they're not getting the meat on the bone that they want to see as far as how does it meet a number of things, but say FEMA flood regulations, where's the stormwater going to be and how's it fit on the site, all those things. That is yet to come. So, and the folks that are in opposition to this will have the opportunity to go through all of that design documentation.
And to have
So,
professional engineers
absolutely.
testify and
Yep.
to show that it's a closed basin and all the
Exactly, and that
problems.
goes back to my comment, which I didn't include a bunch of, call it case law or legal stories about these things, but that is one thing I put in here because I thought it was important, is that whatever side you're on in this, you need to bring your experts and get them on the record at whatever stage. And if you brought, for instance, if someone were to bring experts today, I wouldn't discourage them from doing so. But if that expert would need to point out something like, you cannot possibly fit enough parking on this site because the acreage isn't there, or the building of that size will not fit on this site. You've played games with scaling or something. That's what this stage is at. And obviously those, obviously I can't testify, but it's a big site. There's plenty of room, but we don't know how the soils are. We don't know the elevations. We don't know all those things. That comes at the next stage. And folks in support of it or in opposition of it are encouraged to bring their experts to pick through it and agree or disagree, whether they meet the code criteria.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Prentice. All right. Next up, please.
Cliff Butler, property owner.
I would respectfully ask to be allowed to speak last. There's been several misquotes already, and I would like to have a chance to correct anything I feel is crucial to the.
Is that all right, commissioners? All right. Okay, sir. We'll see you in a little bit. All right. Next up, please.
Michael Pace. There's no address or anything. And he actually has 2 of them turned in, so.
One time, please, sir.
Good evening. Is it just me, or does anyone else have a sense that the issues that are being considered are a foregone conclusion, or perhaps this outcome of this process has already been predetermined? Whenever there's a sense of inevitability in the public process, there's a high probability that a breach of trust has occurred. The public confidence has been severed in this process. The application process in the instant case is deficient of due process and erroneous as needed. It lacks critical analysis required by the city's own ordinances and state statutes, and does not meet the minimum standards, as the situation is rife with confusion and misinformation, as several board members and city administrators are on record for parroting the city attorney's torturous and misleading jury instructions, as they are saying, we have no choice but to approve this. Our hands are tied. We have to approve this so that later we can deny this. These are the comments that are out in the public forum. These comments suggest heavy-handed and undue influence by the city and through their council. So how do these people arrive with this defective logic that they have to approve this process so they later can deny it? Furthermore, the city administration has violated Florida Statute 286.001, which ensures reasonable opportunity for the public to be heard. While the statute provides for the establishment of guidelines limiting the time period for public comments, these rules and policies must be adopted by the board and commission prior to commencement. They cannot be established capriciously or erroneously directly prior to the commencement of the planning and zoning board. That all these above listed statements are grounds for admonishment in filing of an injunction. Trust in the local government is critical to it for it to operate. The city is required by Florida statutes to foster an independent process and must act as the steward of the decision-making process and not the decision maker outright. In order to instill public confidence, the city should consider efforts to cure the process deficiencies as noted, or to not deny the application in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pace. All right, next up.
Pat Tabucci, and there's no address.
Thank you. I am a Carrabelle resident.
If you'll just speak up, please, and you can take your mask off if you like.
I am a Carrabelle resident. The City Commission must follow what the Land Development Code requires before they approve a preliminary site plan. To review, Part 11.02.00, Procedures for obtaining development orders. Development orders are required by this code as a prerequisite for any development activity within the city. This part establishes procedures and standards for review for development orders. This includes section 11.02.03, general requirements applicable for all types of review, and section 11.02.03.02.02, traffic impact analysis. Section 11.04.02, preliminary site plan is required. And the submission requirements, this is for level 1. Number 1, drawing is prepared by a Florida licensed professional. Number 2, the drawing has notes with detailed information on owners of the property, designated project engineer and architect, complete legal description with required certified survey, and any land rendered unusable for development purposes by deed restrictions or other legally enforceable limitations. This includes road rights of way. Number 3 is future land use designation in comp plan and a statement verifying comp plan compliance. Number 4 is land to be dedicated or transferred to public or private entities for purposes which lands will be held and used. This would include easements to be provided to the city or land deeded to the city to allow for post office access and traffic flow. General parking, access and circulation plan. This must include consideration of any existing roadways and right-of-ways on the site. Stormwater management system, including linkage with existing or planned public stormwater management systems, minimum floor elevation, potable water and wastewater need, setbacks, and numerous other items. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pat. All right, Ms. Keisha.
Tamara Allen. Ray Christopherson.
Okay, let it be noted that Ms. Tamara denied her opportunity. Okay.
Greg Christopherson. I wasn't going to speak, but after Mr. Pace's comments, I feel compelled to speak on behalf of my wife and myself. 9 years that she's been serving this city, and she and I have countless volunteer hours, and her integrity and this board is not what you seem to think it is. And I think that if you've got a lot of complaints like that, you get up here and run for one of these positions and make the decisions that have to be made in this city. They go by what this attorney recommends for them. They are not lawyers. They are only servants of this city. And I take a great offense to that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. And I would like to include Mr. then Commissioner Keith Walden, who has faithfully served our city for 5 years and would still be here had there not been a technical issue with his retirement. And we're okay. Let's move forward.
Last up, Cliff Butler.
To clarify one thing, I did not ever say there was a street that ran through the property. I said there was a street in on old plats that showed on 98N and on Tallahassee Street. But it's been made very clear that was probably 100 years ago, and the city's been replatted since then, and that's been a single parcel of land ever since. It really concerns me. Our country is based on certain rights. One of them is free speech. That's been exercised today. But also, there's property rights. As an owner of property, I have a right to expect to be able to develop it. It's been commercial. We've held it for 50 so years for the right project to come along. Unfortunately, this is the first project that has come along that would use that site. I am really concerned that people's opinions can override the property rights, and let everybody be warned. You may be restricted from using your property as you see fit at some point in time. Is this allowed to happen today?
Is there anything else, Mr. Butler?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is that the last comment card?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comment? Okay. We have one person I will allow 3 minutes who has not completed a comment card.
My name is Marvin Pelfrey. I own 305, 308, 310, and 314 Georgia Avenue. I just have a question of the proposed developer here. Would you bring up
Okay, speak into the microphone
Okay.
and ask us, and then we'll refer it to
Would
the...
you have him bring up the 3 pictures he showed of the finished building? I just had a question about it.
Is that okay, commissioners? Can we have that? Okay. Which 3? Any of them?
The one of the back, back up.
Is that it, sir?
That's it. I've been
Okay.
in logistics most of my life, and that doesn't look more like a distribution center than it does a warehouse. I just would like to be assured that only shipments coming. I've not approved of the property for that use, but if they do, that's not going to be a distribution center instead of a retail outlet.
All right, thank you so much for your comments. Okay, that's it. We're going to stop that now. We needed to complete a comment card. Let me ask the commissioners, should we continue?
Just cut it off at 1.
Well, we had the one.
Okay.
Mr. Pelfrey did not have a comment, a speaker card.
Several properties in the city, can I please?
Let him go.
Okay, 3 minutes, sir.
And just limit that.
And that's it. Does everyone hear that? 3 minutes, and we were completing speaker cards. Please state your name.
My name is Kai Nelson. I own a business in the vicinity and multiple properties within the city. This directly affects my business and me personally. I have one question and one question only. Is the city under any legal, moral, or any kind of obligation to abandon their easement, or not really easement rather, but their access to 98, which belongs to the public of Carrabelle? And has there been any due process to abandon this property and any kind of agenda item regarding that? And that's the only question I have.
And that's a good question, and I was going to bring that up shortly under discussion. And how would we, this is the first time this particular site plan has been brought to us. So, and it's a proposal from the developer. So what do you say, Mr. Hartman, regarding closing that egress from the post office?
Sure. So what's being talked about is essentially reconfiguring the traffic flow, parking, and that sort of thing at the post office. The city owns that property. It's being leased to the post office. So they are in what you'd call possession of that property. The exit is not a right-of-way. So normally when we go through this process, when someone wants an alley abandoned, a road abandoned, we go through a resolution or an ordinance and we abandon that property, and the private property owners have an interest in it, right? Before it's abandoned, the public has an interest in it because it's public. It's a public right-of-way. That piece of property is leased to the post office, and it would really be the post office that would have, say, standing to challenge closure of that exit point. It is really not the public. Now, the public can obviously talk to their elected officials and express their position on whether or not they like that exit or they like the flow pattern in there and all this, but it is not a right-of-way. A piece of property owned by the city, whether it's the city hall property here or the post office property there, when I say they are different because now you have a tenant on one and you have the city on another, but that is not a right-of-way. It's not something that would need to be abandoned or you would need to pass a resolution or something on. We have control up to a point, subject to the lease terms, of our own property. Meaning it is no different than, let's take the post office out of it, if we decided that the parking lot out here isn't working right for us and we wanted to close one of the entrances to it or open up another entrance closer to the current, we can do that. That's not something that would require necessarily public input. It's yeah.
Okay, so and I did have that question. I was concerned how that would proceed. So a right-of-way then, a right-of-way is our roadways. The actual 25 feet or so off each side of the roadway is a right-of-way. Our alleys are right-of-ways. Is that correct? So it's any public property that's a right, not publicly owned property that's actual property, but property that's for, I don't know. I'm
yeah,
trying
no,
to,
it's actually.
I'm trying to figure a way to, I understand what you just said, but I
Right,
want
right.
to make sure the public
It
understands.
is the nature of this, obviously, because people say, hey, cars come and go through there. So it feels like an alley or a road.
Yes, sir.
That is not the, now, when I say that's not the case, I haven't done title work on that property, just what we talked about before, meaning that there might be a road there or anything else. But the applicant needs to do that, right? They're going to come to us and show any easements, the actual 98 right-of-way, which will probably extend to wherever it extends to, affecting this property and that sort of thing. But that right, if you want to call it, like, I understand some people say, well, I have a right to come and go off of 98 into the post office from there as a member of the public because that is city property. That is incorrect. That is not how it works on a, meaning someone out here couldn't just make a left in between the entrances and say, hey, that's city property. I'm just pulling into the city parking lot
Okay.
right here. That's
Well,
not a thing.
Go ahead, Mr. Melander.
My comment is, they don't enter there. That's one way.
Right.
That's one way only.
Well, I did hear
And the-
someone was entering there.
And well,
I understand.
illegally.
I understand.
Illegally, but it's not an entrance. It's an exit. And the other thing is, I feel like you addressed it very well when you said we're not. If this moves forward, and the way I view it from my seat is, we're not going to abandon anything. We're going to reconfigure as you described, because the proposal there says to put 4 parking spots in there, and those will be public parking spots.
Right. I mean, the city, on city-owned property.
Correct.
City-owned and controlled property, we can reconfigure parking, we could reconfigure entrances, again, subject to DOT or however. This one is a little different because we have a long-term lease to the post office. So, and again, that lease predates my time with the city. That lease may have terms in it that, because when you are a tenant, you have sometimes more rights than the owner of the property. So, because they have the right of possession of that property.
Correct.
And then again, I leave it to the engineers and other folks, but I know, that entrance has been, good and bad over the years. I mean, there's people that complain about it or like it, I guess.
And again, the way I understand it is just as you described, that what we're describing and talking about right now is if this continues to go forward. All that's yet to be determined.
Yeah, those are all things that
It's
have to be,
correct.
that the applicant has to work out.
That's correct.
And they can work with staff to do that.
Yes.
They should not be working with commissioners. Yep.
All right, this needs to be very short.
Of course, I've only
I
had
mean,
about 30 seconds so far of my 3 minutes, but I'd like to ask this. Has there been an official assessment of the appraisal value that would be added to the the proposed Family Dollar location once an access from 98 has been basically given from the city, and an appraisal of the post office property of the city based off of closing that access? Because obviously having an access from 98 is a huge bonus or takeaway from a property. And if that, if the city property that doesn't become a post office no more and the property's sold and doesn't have an access, or rather an exit at this moment in time, but it could be turned into an access possibly, I may be incorrect, but that would drastically affect the sellability of the building as well as the value of the building. And you're adding value to a private developer but giving away public property. I'm not concerned about the right-of-way. I'm concerned about giving away basically appraised value of a public property without due process. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, are we giving away property?
Yeah, no, there's no, now that would be a different ball of wax, but you're right. If
Okay.
we're not giving any land to anybody.
All right.
Yep.
Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dan if it's legal for us to go forward with this and approve it.
It is. I mean, it is before you today to make a decision.
Okay, we've
on.
got a motion on the board, or up here, by Commissioner Mathis. He has made a motion to approve this site plan as presented.
And, sorry, I would phrase it as preliminary site plan.
All right, is that correct?
Preliminary site plan, yes.
All right, so Mr. Commissioner Mathis has a motion to approve the preliminary site plan as presented?
ma'am.
Is that's correct?
That is correct.
All right, then, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion. The way I understand Commissioner Mathis's motion is to approve the preliminary site plan as presented and allow it to follow its normal course. Is that correct, Commissioner?
That's correct.
I'll second it.
So that motion is by Commissioner Mathis, second by Commissioner Millender, to approve the preliminary site plan as presented. And so now we have discussion.
I'm just not ready to go there. I just think there's some other things we gotta
Put your microphone up, please.
Microphone right up here. Hello there, Mike. I've just got too many questions in my mind to make a decision that close on it at this point. So at the present time, I don't think I could support it.
Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask the attorney, the engineer, or the developer at this time?
Not today. No, not at this time.
Is there any other discussion? And I just want to ask a question of the attorney, just to reiterate what Commissioner Mathis asked in the beginning. Is this process legal, in your legal opinion, with your expertise? Because as my husband mentioned, none of us on here are lawyers. We make anywhere from $300 a month to $400 a month, and we follow your guidance.
This is the process that someone who wants to develop their property needs to go through. And it's your job to make decisions on that. And you have really, again, we're at the preliminary site plan stage, but it still applies. You can approve or deny this application, or, as you've done in the past, I think you can table it if there is, as Commissioner Mathis talked about, a need that he feels a need for more information. But that's a decision each of you would make. But understand too that an applicant of this nature has a right to a decision, an up or down vote on whether they can develop their property or not. Just so, you know, we sit here and talk about legalities and lawyers and this sort of thing. Lawyers, obviously, this is what lawyers do, is they will challenge a denial or challenge an approval of this type. So usually if there's opposition, they may hire a lawyer to challenge an approval. If there's a denial of this application and it's not supported by competent substantial evidence, then the property owner sometimes will sue the city and challenge that denial as not being based on your own code. So it is absolutely proper to make a decision here tonight, you know, up or down.
That answered my questions. I'll go with you.
Okay, and then I have another question. On the closing of a portion of the property, closing up the portion that's presented here, the commission, sitting as a commission, has not made a decision on that. Does that mean, how does that work? How does that, if it moved forward and if this board voted to approve the majority?
Yeah, let me be clear about this.
Okay.
Is what is shown on this preliminary site plan.
Yes, sir.
You are agreeing to that. Meaning you are in effect, you are saying we're approving this site plan, preliminary site plan, the developer would go forward and comply with all the design criteria in our design standards, in our land development regulations, and everything else, and they would design this site based on this preliminary site plan. And as the applicant had mentioned, let's say the stormwater area is bigger, that it needs to be bigger. That will be shown on the final site plan and will be clear that it's a difference from the preliminary site plan that was approved. If, for instance, DOT changes its mind and says, actually, I don't want to go down too many scenarios, but no, the city is agreeing to essentially cooperate, if we're going to call it that, if we approve this, then we are saying that we are in agreement to close that exit to the post office, period.
And Ms. Brown has a question.
Should we have you look over the post office's lease before moving forward with this? Because, I mean, could there be consequences of if we did approve it today and then found out that it goes against the post office's lease? What would that look like?
That's a good point. The issue here really is how much of the applicant's work, I mean, we have to do our job, which is to make sure they meet the land development regulation criteria. Commissioner Millender had some discussion with the post office. The analysis you're talking about would probably occur if, whether it's the applicant, I'd say the applicant runs into a problem, because that is the applicant's going to need to engage with the post office, and you know, we're talking about this truck kind of looks like going up into the Family Dollar property and back to the post office. I mean, they all would need to agree to work together, and if that didn't happen, then we're sort of back to square one here. But you're not wrong. It's just I know that the staff needs to definitely work with the applicant, but not do the applicant's job for them, basically. That's the.
Any other questions, commissioners? Any other questions? All right, then. Can I call for the vote? Are we ready? All right, then. We have this Motion by Commissioner Mathis to approve the preliminary site plan as presented, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Millender. We've had our discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. Let it be known it carries unanimously. Okay, so then this quasi-judicial hearing is now adjourned, and the commission will reconvene as a regular commission meeting. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Yes. Okay, we're going to let the folks for the Organization for Artificial Reefs, we're going to hear that next under new business right away. And then we'll take a break. Okay, we're on new business. Item 1, discussion of possible action regarding the Organization for Artificial Reefs application, and this is requested by Bill Mickler. We will take an adjournment after this item. Okay, move forward, please, then.
Thank you very much.
We're ready for you.
I'm Alan Richardson with the Organization for Artificial Reefs.
Hi, Mr. Richardson.
We've been here numerous times. Bill Michler is my human easel. He's going to show you a picture. This is a shot we got from Billy's Barge just this past weekend.
Billy's Barge, you say?
This is a project the City of Carrabelle and Orr and the Coastal Conservation Association entered into in 2016. And we built this. This was a barge, a 110-foot barge. And this is what it looked like Saturday. It had amberjack, sheephead, bull reds, of course Goliath grouper, snapper, mangrove snapper, and sheephead. So it's producing very well. We're proposing another grant for this upcoming cycle through FWC. This is another $60,000 grant. We've applied for these in the past. And,
yes, sir.
You're familiar with our work. So this is another one we're going to do. It's another memorial reef. It's going to be roughly about 500 feet north of this site. It's in the Carrabelle 10-mile reef, which is 10 miles south of Dog Island. And it's in a permitted area we've done a lot of memorial reefs in. We're excited about this one because CCA is going to sponsor with this also probably double the amount that we're going to be spending. So it'll be a really nice, good project, and we're looking forward to that. Looking forward to working with Bill and CCA again too. And we're just looking for your blessing. And of course, this is no cost to the city whatsoever. It's just the time that we have to, go through the grant process. But this is a totally funded grant. Now, as you're aware, the city pays the contractor, and then you're reimbursed by FWC, but it's a full reimbursement.
And
that is literally all we do, because he takes care of everything else.
Okay, and then that gets us some more fish gathered up out there,
yeah,
right?
and Courtney and Miranda we love working with them.
It's
always great.
You all, your organization or organization of volunteers, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, 100%. Yes, it's my full-time job that I don't make any money doing.
Well, thank you, and we're having National Volunteer Week in April 18th. So.
And Bill, want to say something real quick?
Just one other thing. We're committed to spending this money for the economic benefit of the community. So we hope the fishermen will come and support the community.
All right, well, we thank you.
I want to say one other thing. We're working on FWC's getting $2.4 million in NERDA funds. That's the oil spill money. We're going to be getting that for Gulf, Franklin, and Wakulla counties. So $2.4 million are going to split between just these 3 counties. And so we're working with the Apalachicola Artificial Reef Association. That's Grayson Shepard and Appalachia. We're working with him on doing a deep reef out by S Tower. We're going to do another one between Bryson and 10 Mile, which is 15 miles offshore, and then another one in Wakulla County. So these are all going to be deeper reefs. We're getting a lot of requests for that. And so it's a lot of these guys with the big boats that are putting in here and spending a lot of money on fuel and bait and everything else. So we're hoping that's going to really help the economy, the tourism economy of the ramps around here, as well as Lanark just, dredges their ramps. So they're going to be able to get bigger boats.
I need to get you all to come make a presentation to the TDC. sometime.
Be happy to.
Just to enlighten.
Be happy to. Just
Okay.
give us a call.
All right. Okay, so can we have a motion regarding this
Motion
request?
To approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right, then that motion is by Commissioner Mathis to approve and a second by Commissioner Millender. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. That was Mathis Millender. And we're going to take a little break here, about 10 minutes. I mean, we've got quite a few more items.
What you doing?
One of the things you mentioned earlier about Tallahassee Memorial Hospital Healthcare, and Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare is reaching out to all of the critical access hospitals or rural hospitals in the region, that service their area, and they are equipping us with, some telemedicine tools for consultation between their doctors, ED doctors, and that should be coming up pretty soon once we begin to finalize what we want to do with it.
We're not cut off here or stranded from any other support or information. If we have a patient that we are maintaining here on a ventilator, not only will we be able to talk to their emergency physicians there, but we can also talk to their critical care specialists in the ICU. We can bounce numbers back and forth off them, which kind of medicines they think are the best for sedation, for antibiotic treatment, what have you. And so it's not just the physicians here. We're going to be, for those kind of patients that are critical patients, we're going to be in close contact by phone, by telemedicine with other specialists right up the road.
Corruption, love, larceny, secrets, and small-town politics. Don't miss the world premiere of John Spore's The Corruption of Harry Finley, March 26th through the 28th at the Chapman Theater in Apalachicola. Tickets for this locally written play are on sale at panhandleplayers.com or at the door. This event is funded in part by the Franklin County TDC.
This is John Solomon, Executive Director of the Apalachicola Bay Chamber of Commerce. When visiting our beautiful piece of paradise, please make sure you visit our local shops, restaurants, galleries, and take some time to experience something different. Take a fishing trip or a tour with one of our experienced guides. Our neighbors and their businesses are the heartbeat of our community. Thank you for visiting, and remember to shop local, eat local, and fish local. This message is brought to you by the Apalachicola Bay Chamber of Commerce.
Come inside and check us out. We have something for everyone. Hello, welcome to Apalachicola Chocolate and Coffee Company. From our handmade chocolates, fudges, delicious old-fashioned caramel, pies, cookies, including the largest Greek wedding and macarons you've ever seen. We also make the Italian-style ice cream called gelato, which is adult-tested and kid approved. We have a full menu coffee bar, from lattes and cappuccinos to some of our signature drinks, such as our affogatos and black bottom coffees. And don't forget about the famous crafted coffee blend. We also roast our coffee beans on site, so it's super fresh. Don't like coffee? We also have teas and lemonade. If you're hungry, we serve breakfast sandwiches on our homemade bread, or we have New York water bagels. Or try the biscuits and gravy that are to die for. We also have lunch sandwiches and soups. We do carry some gluten-free and vegan options as well. Hear what some locals have to say.
I love the biscuits and gravy.
You know something? The coffee here is great.
I love the ice cream of the chocolate company.
So come check us out and stay a while. In here, it's just like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Oh, hey, Dan.
Another question came in. If I have been exposed, should I come to the hospital? Will I have to wait in the lobby with others who might be infected?
That is such a key question, and there's been some misunderstanding, not just in our community, but in communities all around the nation about that. So how are we handling that? If you think you've been exposed, you definitely want to talk to your doctor. If your doctor is not available, call us. At that point, should you come in? Right now, the answer is no. If you think you've been exposed, but you are not having symptoms, right now we're not going to test you. So coming here would only put yourself at risk for more exposure to someone else here, or for people here being exposed to you. Now, if you do come in, if you think you're developing some symptoms, will we tell you to wait in the lobby around other folks? We want you to come in, we want you to check in, put a mask on, and at that point, depending if there are other people in the lobby, you may be asked to wait back outside in your car. Let me underline, we are not sending you home. We're just going to have you wait in your car until the nurse can come out and get you for your turn to be seen. Ordinarily, being exposed, if you think someone in your home has this, but you're asymptomatic, that person who is having symptoms should come in. I think one of the other questions we talked about, if someone in my home is positive, should I get tested? And again, the answer is no. If you're not showing symptoms, at this point, there's no point in it, because say you are tested, say you have a family member in your home, known positive, you're tested, and you're negative. What have we proven? You're just negative that day. If you're still living in the home with that person, you might be positive tomorrow. So better to wait until we have the more rapid blood test to give a better, more precise response for everybody in the home.
reconvene this city commission meeting on March the 4th, 2021. I want to ask Ms. Keisha, and she's down. Okay, Ms. Keisha, you have an announcement regarding our agenda.
Item 5, presentation by Suzanne Woodcock, has asked to be removed.
This last one is gonna, she asked to remove this one. So she's gone. Okay. Okay. Well, that's a shame.
Did you thank her?
Item number 2, discussion and possible action regarding letter of support to state legislature regarding proposed House Bill 1 and proposed House companion Senate Bill 484, and this is requested by Mel Kelly. And she is now approaching the podium and going to, I hope, going to give us a little bit of a discussion on that. Help us understand it better.
No man's life, liberty, or property are safe while the legislature is in session, said Mark Twain. I presented the mayor with some information a couple weeks ago because I knew that I would be finished as a commissioner before she was able to deal with it. And I apologize for any misunderstanding because what I gave you was not meant to be in support. I am very concerned about several of those bills which were listed. And the reason I'm concerned is because they are attacks on local rule. The old principle that the government closest to the people serves the people best doesn't seem to be remembered in Tallahassee. I've got several comments here, and I'm going to highlight them, but I want you to understand. This is particularly on House Bill 1 and Senate Bill, I can't remember, 2, whatever it is, I've got on the next page. House Bill number 1 is on riot control, and it's a very important sounding bill, and it's one of those questions that somebody would say, have you stopped beating your wife? And there's no good answer to that except yes. And so the bill is asking for police protection and riot protection and all of that. And I encourage you, Mr. Hartman, to advise the commission on this. I'm sorry, I'm not rambling here because I don't want to take any more time, but I want you to understand there are a number of problems in that bill, and one of them is that they could deny state grants to local governments that slash law enforcement budgets. In other words, the action will go to Tallahassee to regulate our police department budget should you, for example, slash the budget in order to hire a mental health counselor or whatever is suggested in so many places today for the kind of problems that other places have. That's a real concern to me.
What it does, it reduces makes it difficult for municipalities to reduce law enforcement
Right,
funding.
budgets. Mhm.
Right, if some certain municipalities
Yes.
want to do that.
If municipalities want to slash police budgets, that can go to Tallahassee and they can take over. This is sort of like animal control issue, Commissioner Mathis. Last year, Florida lawmakers presented 42 bills prohibiting local governments from taking action on issues in their own communities. That's called preemption. There are bills now which are actually taking away control of local ports, which is another interesting issue here. That's Senate Bill 426 and House Bill 267. Considered in the Florida Senate and its counterpart are vital protection for deep water ports, important legislation which would ensure commerce in all the ports, all 14 deep water ports. Well, that's one of ours. And if you want someone else to regulate that port, that's snuck into that bill. And like I said, it's a wonderful sounding bill for commerce and all until you realize that you are giving up your own community protection. If passed, the only change would be local governments would no longer have the power to affect the movement of commerce in our ports. If lawmakers continue to turn to preemption, it will strip away local government ability to experiment with innovative policies. For example, local governments will not be able to take action to respond to things that their citizenry is concerned about. I do not want you to support those bills. I'm sorry, that was a misunderstanding. Under this bill...
I didn't say I supported
No,
it.
I know,
Okay.
it was just written that way on the agenda.
Okay.
Under this bill, police could arrest peaceful protesters when violence occurs at a rally, even when individuals have not engaged in any violence. Once again, it takes away local rule, local enforcement. And that worries me, and I hope you understand, and perhaps at some point consider a message to our representatives that you are very concerned about the local provisions involved in these two bills. So thank you. That's just, I wanted to make a point about that.
And thank you very much. And I did try to do a little bit of research. It's very detailed, a little difficult to understand for me anyway. But there's something in there that requires law enforcement to officers, if they arrest individuals like in a riot, they're required to keep those individuals in jail, where maybe normally they would give them a ticket and then see them in court. So what it's doing is taking away home rule in certain areas. And actually, I circulated this to the commission, well, I found it on Florida League of Cities and sent it to Courtney as some reference material because we had no reference material. And the Florida League of Cities supports opposition to House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 484, and they've actually got a lobbyist for them that they've hired that is working on that in opposition. So you could send some type of a letter to the lobbyist, and they would then circulate all of that out to the senators and representatives on those committees for us that were in opposition, you know, or of this. If you want to be in opposition, or maybe you're not in opposition. I can't say for you. I'm just trying to tell you the best I know at this point.
One of the other issues that was on that was the lobbyist. Mm-hmm. When I served on the commission many years ago, we investigated the possibility of hiring a lobbyist for the city. Cities that have lobbyists get more grants, get more monies. That's obvious, that's logical. We never proceeded with it, never made money in the budget for it. I still think that it is an outstanding idea for the city, just as I did then, but one of these bills also prohibits the municipality from hiring lobbyists. And there again, somebody's telling us what we can do and what we can't do, and that gets my dander up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. I did look on the Florida League of Cities. They've got several bills that they're concerned with that threaten home rule, and they didn't. Well, they did. They had this, but it wasn't their outstanding. They've got 6 or 7 that they're working on with webinars like short-term vacation rentals and all.
Yes, that's another. I mentioned that in there, so when you review that.
Okay. All right. So how do we want to handle this at this point?
Oh, I apologize for speaking out. I just did it again.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
I just didn't want you to set a bad example with that room.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the first one to do it.
I apologize.
Okay. Okay.
Move to write a letter of support.
A letter of opposition?
Yeah.
Of opposition.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we could do that. We could send, possibly, the easiest thing to do would be to send it to the Florida League of Cities, to their lobbyists, and let them send copies out to all of the representatives and senators.
I'll second that.
Good idea.
Okay. A letter of opposition.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's by Commissioner Allen, and second by Commissioner Brown. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and that motion carries. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Item 3, approve, disapprove the social media use policy and procedure manual. And Mr. Chief Gary Huntings isn't here, but I did talk with him about this a couple of times. Have you all? Oh, okay. Oh, Lieutenant Brannon is here if we have questions on this social media policy, sir.
Well, I had discussions with the chief and with city administrator and with the attorney, and I'm ready to make a motion to approve.
All right then, very good.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay.
I was surprised that we didn't actually already have one as a city, because most businesses and municipalities have social media policies in place, and I would highly recommend that we adopt one as well. I haven't seen anything bad that we're doing, but it's something that we need to get ahead of, just in case.
Okay. Would you like to, for us to have that as an agenda item in the next month or couple of months? Would you like?
That would be great, and I wouldn't mind even drafting up something that we can work together on.
Or you could do that and then send it on to Mr. Hartman. Or if you have some, or a lot of times we'll come up with examples.
Right.
And then send that to Mr. Hartman and we fine tune it.
No need to reinvent the wheel.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do, we'll put that on the next month's agenda for social media policy for the, for staff, for employees. Okay, so we have, is there any other discussion on this one now, at this point? Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Mathis. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. All right then, Ms. Tamra, disapprove closing Southeast Avenue B on March the 20th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for the Carrabelle Culture Crawl.
I motion to approve.
Oh. Let's second. Okay.
Hey, I'm
Well,
not gonna let Frank get ahead of me tonight.
Okay.
I got ahead of you, I done voted.
Okay. Well, I'll just say Millender motions, Brown second.
Hey, it's got
Okay.
hilarious
And,
now.
Okay. I'm tired. Ms. Tamara, you had something you wanted to say about the Carrabelle Culture Crawl.
Well, two things. I'm inviting you all to come. It's gonna be fun. We're doing it a little different. We're trying to do lots of social distancing, and, we are gonna dedicate, we're gonna dedicate the historic marker at 10 o'clock that morning, so you'll all be invited to that.
Okay, and that's the Carrabelle Culture Crawl. Don't miss it. Saturday, March the 20th, 10 to 3 in Carrabelle, downtown Carrabelle. And that's a good economic supporter of, it's a good event. So we have that motion by Commissioner Millender to close the Avenue B. Second by Ms. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And then,
I voted for y'all did.
I know you did. And then item 5 has been removed as it has been canceled, and we're, if there's no other business,
I'm okay.
you. What you approving, sir?
There's no other business.
Okay, all right, then I guess we're going to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Allen. Any further, anything else by a second?
Second.
Okay.
Third, let's
Okay.
go.
Everybody's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right then, thank